Hello everyone, I'm the Power Silveric and welcome back to another video game review. My last review was on the incredibly shit Jak and Daxter The Lost Frontier. But this review won't be on another game that I absolutely loathe, no. I'm doing this review on a pair of games that I've only gotten into about 3 months ago. And I personally think they were probably the best games on the PlayStation 3 system. They are the inFamous games. I first played inFamous when I played Resistance 3. I went to start the game when I saw another disc icon which had demos on it. I had a look and I had a Motorstorm game, Killzone 3, Killzone 3 3D, and inFamous 2. I installed Killzone 3 and inFamous 2 and played inFamous 2 as soon as after I played Resistance 3. Now, I had already heard of inFamous through a review on the sequel on Good Game on the ABC. It's an Australian TV show that reviews games, answers questions, and other stuff. If you want to check out their website, I'll put the link in the description below. But yeah, I saw the review and thought, oh yeah, it looks pretty cool, and thought nothing more of it until I installed the demo. I played it, and it was pretty fun. Fast forward about a year or so, and I find myself bored with literally all of my games, of which I have 60-something PS2 games, and back then about 10 or so PS3 games, and about 6 or so PSP games, and 1 Game Boy game. So I go out to good old EB Games and see inFamous. I thought back to the demo and thought that it was a pretty cool game, so I picked it up pre-owned for $12. I play it, and it was awesome. I finished that and then tried to find another $12 so I can buy inFamous 2. And it's really funny because I bought a pre-owned first print of the game. You know, it isn't Platinum or Essentials, and the guy gives me a brand new Essentials copy of the game. And keep in mind that there was no pre-owned Essentials copy there. The only Essentials copies that were there were brand new. Anyway, I play through that and, well, this is where I stop going through my history with this franchise and get down to this review. The games were developed by Sucker Punch, who also did the Sly Cooper series on the PS2. The franchise consists of 4 games, half being on the PS3 and the other half on the PS4. I haven't played the PS4 games yet because I don't have one, but the PS3 games I played and loved, so I'll be reviewing them. The first game was released in 2009, the same year as Uncharted 2 by Naughty Dog, which was inFamous was terrific, but was overshadowed by another bad guy sandbox game that was released the same week, which was Prototype. Haven't played it, but heard it was pretty good, but to inFamous. The story follows Cole McGrath, a guy that delivers packages around Empire City. Then one day while delivering stuff, his package exploded, and the thing that he was delivering blew as well. Oh, sorry. Anyway, Cole then wakes up in a crater caused by an enormous explosion. After getting out of the crater and all the destruction and stuff the explosion caused around him, he got back to his friend Zeke. The explosion gave him extraordinary powers, but with no experts to consult, he has to control them and master them on his own, while the city outside fell apart. The federal government had to put Empire City under quarantine to contain this quote-unquote biological threat, letting no one in or outside the city, so everyone was stuck there with the psychos and the gangs that now own the streets. Cole then stands up to the gangs with his electricity powers, and throughout the game, while heading from mission to mission, you'll probably fight a lot of them and fight probably a lot more of them during the missions. Anyway, back to the story. After Cole and Zeke and a bunch of other citizens try to escape the quarantine, they open a door to a wall of machine guns. Zeke jumps for it and lands into the harbour below, and Cole jumps the same way and jumps onto something that isn't actually told but only through the cutscene visually. He meets a woman named Moya. She claims that her husband John went missing on the day of the blast, and that in exchange for Cole finding him, she will get him and his friends, basically Zeke and his girlfriend Trish, who has some problems with Cole concerning the blast, but that's beside the point, out of the quarantine and clear Cole's name. Cole takes the deal, and throughout the game you will have to do various missions for Moya, and sometimes Zeke, but not really. And throughout the game you'll meet other characters that have powers, and all 3 run their own gangs that control the 3 islands of Empire City. Now, there is a lot more story to it, but it contains spoilers and will take too long to explain in this video. inFamous is an open-world sandbox game with third-person shooting, but with electricity. It has a lot of parkour and climbing, kinda like Assassin's Creed, but in my opinion, inFamous has better and more controllable climbing and parkour. Throughout the game you'll get a number of different electrical powers, such as a sticky bomb, shockwave, and so much more. There is also a moral choice system, which gets you to decide whether you are good or evil. For example, the first moral choice decision you have to make is, you see yourself getting food for the people, and you can either shoot a couple of people so that you, Zeke, and Trish can have all the food for yourselves, evil, or you can let the people eat and get your equal amount, good. Each of these choices will result in a different cutscene if the situation has to do with the story, and also enhances the reputation of whatever choice you choose, good or evil. Choosing between these two also affects your appearance. This is implemented well, and it also changes the color of your electricity. If you are evil, it turns red, and if you're good, it stays blue. As you kill enemies, you will get XP, which you can use to upgrade each of your powers, and some powers you can only get if you are good, and some powers you can only get if you are evil. The game also features side missions, which are scattered all around the city, and when completed, a section of the island it is done on will have a percentage of enemies not coming back. Do all the side missions, and free roaming will have little to no distractions. There are also blast shards, which are scattered around the city. There are a total of 350, and after collecting a certain amount, you will gain another battery core, which is used to store energy. So when you use a power other than your usual shooting, like your shockwave, a few battery cores will be used up. Once they are all used up, you can't do them powers anymore until you drain some electricity from something electrical. This can also be a cover shooter because you can either stay out in the open and shoot everyone while you're getting shot, or you can duck into cover and do it the smart way and not get hit as much. So now let's look at the bad aspects. Well, to be honest, I really can't find anything wrong with this game. It's definitely one of, if not the best PS3 games out there, and there was only one mission that I didn't like, and that was the one where you have to shoot down some flying drones and get to them to get some intel or something before they blow up. But if I have to make one criticism, is that there really isn't any music in the game, and I probably couldn't remember any to save my life. But yeah, the storyline is just absolutely great, and the gameplay is spectacular, and I can't find anything wrong with this game other than the music, but that's kind of minor, so that is why I give inFamous a strong 10 out of 10. It has got to be one of my all-time favourite games out there. It is at the ranks of Jak and Daxter, and if you don't know, Jak and Daxter is my all-time favourite game series of all time, and inFamous is up there with Jak and Daxter. Now on to inFamous 2. inFamous 2 was released in 2011, 2 years after the first game. One thing that's noticed straight away about this game is that the graphics and the animation is a lot better than the first game. And another thing that is noticed straight away, which I think is kind of a letdown, is that they changed the voice of Cole to some other guy that kind of sounds like him, but not at all at the same time. I honestly prefer the voice of Cole from the first game. Anyway, the story begins about, I don't know exactly, but I know that it's only a few weeks after the first game. Now, I can't reveal much of the story because it would spoil the end of the first game, but all that I can say about the beginning is that Cole meets someone named Agent Quo, who says that she knows of what is coming, which I can't say because of spoilers. Anyway, she says that she knows someone who can help Cole prepare for what is coming, who also worked on the Ray Sphere prototype. Oh, by the way, the Ray Sphere is what gave Cole his powers in the first game. It's what caused the explosion. Anyway, back to the second game story. Cole, Zeke, and Agent Quo prepare to set sail for New Marais to get to Dr. Wolf. Just before they set sail, the thing that I'm not supposed to tell you about comes along and destroys Empire City. But Cole has to stop it, but he can't. In fact, he can't so much that the fight drained him of most of his powers, and now everyone who didn't get killed or wasn't left behind got onto the boat and fled to New Marais. During the journey to New Marais, Zeke and Cole have been working on a device that uses Cole's electricity and turns it into a melee weapon. Zeke calls it the Amp. Upon the arrival, they stop just outside the city at the swamp and go to enter the city that way, otherwise they would have been taken down by the militia, the gang that practically owns New Marais. After going through the swamp and having the first moral choice decision being nothing like in the first game, but I'll get to that later, they dock and Cole and Quo go to find Dr. Wolf. After an explosion at his lab caused by I don't know what, Cole goes to him, to which he explains that he's constructed a device capable of taking away a conduit's powers to defeat the threat that might spoil the awesome story. Oh, and a conduit is kind of like a person that can absorb Ray Sphere energy, and usually conduits have powers. Anyway, he explains that Cole can't use it until he has absorbed all of the blast cores, which give him new powers each time he absorbs one. Throughout the game you will meet more people with powers, but this time they are allies rather than enemies. Well, except for Bertrand, one of the main antagonists. As you get deeper into the story, there start to be these mutant things that you have to fight, sometimes as tall as buildings, and these icemen which have ice powers, so I guess there are more enemies with powers than allies. Oh well. Now, that's about as much of the story as I'm going to tell you, but now let's get to the gameplay. One of the main things you notice is that Cole's shooting arm is different. I mean, if you have the camera over Cole's left shoulder, he'll shoot with his right arm instead of his left. Well, I noticed that straight away anyway. But Cole's controls and parkour are a lot better in this game. However, I did find climbing some of the buildings a bit hard because of balconies and sometimes not being able to get around them. The amp is really cool too, as you can pull off some cool combos and brutal finishes with it. Most of the things in the first game are still here in this game, like the XP system when you kill enemies, but personally, I didn't really feel the need to upgrade anything in this game. I got through the whole game with only a few things upgraded and a shitload of XP to spend. And I found that the interface for it was just a bit confusing after getting really used to the first one. Blast shards are still in this game, but not from the Ray Sphere blast, from the blast from Dr. Wolf's lab. They still do the same thing, but again, I didn't really feel the need to collect many because the game is just a bit easy. Even on hard, the game isn't as difficult as the first. On hard, that is. Side missions to take over areas of the city are here as well in this game, and there are a lot more variety in the side missions, but I haven't gotten around to doing much of them at this point. All of Cole's powers are in this game, but you will have to acquire most of them through blast cores, and they are all better than the first. Kinda. The moral choice system is implemented really badly in this game. With every moral choice situation, you have to listen carefully to what the characters say, and it's not always clear which choice is good or evil. There were a couple of times where I was playing the good path, but accidentally took the evil path because I either couldn't hear them properly, or I didn't understand. But something that I found was really cool to see was there are moral choice missions, where you can choose one mission with the character which is kinda evil, but she's still fighting the bad guys, or a mission with Quo, which is always the good mission. About halfway through the game, you find the militia has a blast core hooked up to something that switches powers, so there is a moral choice thing about which person to switch with, the slightly evil chick Nyx, or Quo. Oh yeah, Quo gets ice powers, which are arguably more fun than the powers that you get from Nyx. Your electricity colour and appearance still change depending on what path you choose, and the game's ending and how you kill the final boss depends on what path you took, unlike the first one, which I thought was pretty cool. So now let's look at the bad aspects. Well, to be honest, there are a lot more bad things than I expected to be in this game. Cole's voice change was probably the worst of the lot. There isn't really any music again either. The usefulness of the XP was really diminished in this game, as well as the moral choice system. In the first game, what you chose really affected the story, but in this game, it really didn't matter except for the powers you got in the ending. But the ending for the good side was probably the best ending I've seen in a game. I've never actually cried about a game before, but the ending actually nearly almost made me shed a single tear. Yeah, it was actually a really powerful ending, and I really liked it. I haven't finished it on Evil yet, but yeah, back to the bad aspects. What I mentioned earlier about Cole's shooting arms being different, I actually really didn't like it. Honestly, after playing the first one for so long, it actually threw me off a bit. The blast shards were found to be slightly less useful in this game for me, because you could recharge your electricity on basically anything around you, and it was a pretty easy game. It's longer than the first one, but I was able to finish this game within 6 to 7 hours. It took about that long for me to finish the first game, but the first game was a lot harder. And probably the second worst thing about this game is that when you do your usual shooting, it uses battery cores, and once you're out of battery cores, you can't shoot your standard shots. That never happened on the first game, even on hard. Another thing is that Cole I don't know, he just looks really different in this game. He has this massive scar on his face that wasn't there in the first, and he would have only been able to get it within a couple of weeks between the games, and that was never mentioned. He also didn't have the outline of a beard on his face that he did in the first, and he just looked really different. So to sum up this review, I have to give inFamous 2 a 7.5 out of 10. It had a lot more variety, but it had a lot more things wrong with it than the first one. So there you have it, review number 2 on the inFamous Duology on the PS3. Highly recommended for whoever hasn't played them. So that's about it. I'm the Power Cell Freak, and don't forget, if you liked the video, leave a like and comment down below. What do you think of inFamous? And also, what do you think of the videos done
like this
and like this? Please tell me, and don't forget to subscribe. And so, I'm the Power Cell Freak in 2015, and I'm out everyone. Peace.